Speed has fascinated us from the beginning of time. As soon as man invented the wheel, he started trying to make it go faster. In business communication, we went from Pony Express to mail to FedEx to fax to email and now to instant messaging. So why not fast success? Is it really possible for you to accomplish more in the next 12 months than in the previous 12 years? Speed limits are made to be broken. When Wilbur Wright took his first flight in 1903, he achieved 9 miles per hour. The 100-mile-per-hour barrier was broken in 1912. Aviation technology developed very quickly by urgent necessity during World War II. By 1941, flight speeds exceeded 600 miles per hour. 1956, the 1,000-mile-per-hour limit broken. Current record is over 2,000 miles per hour. Speed limits are made to be broken. It took Egyptians an estimated 400 years to build the first pyramid. The Luxor, the Pyramid Hotel and Resort in Las Vegas, was built in about 400 days. Speed limits are made to be broken. Consider market growth of the car industry. In 1900, there were about 8,000 automobiles in all of America, and only 114 miles of paved roads to drive them on. By 2001, there were over 200 million cars and 46,800 miles of roads. In the emerging marketplace of China, in 1990, there were only 1.7 million cars that were privately owned. Today, there are 20 million autos with projected sales over the next 12 months to exceed 22.5 million cars. In 1961, Ray Kroc started franchising McDonald's restaurants, and in a peak year, as many as 9 new restaurants opened every day. 2004, Starbucks opened 6 of its shops per week. Currently, KFC is opening a new restaurant every day in Asia. Here in the U.S., Home Depot opened one of their giant stores every 3 days for a year. Walmart opened a dozen new stores every week in 2006. Speed limits are made to be broken. Let's talk about wealth and speed. John Jacob Astor arrived in the U.S. as a penniless immigrant at age 19 in 1784 and became, by most accounts, America's first millionaire. And over some 40 years, built a $40 million fortune through real estate. Average wealth creation of $1 million a year. Then, that was blinding speed. Today, it's common for entrepreneurs to create wealth of speeds over $1 million a month, $1 million a week, even $1 million a day. You'll meet some of these in this film. Consider Sergey Brin and Larry Page, who are the founders of Google and are worth $12.9 billion, respectively. First high-rise condominium in the United States was Greystone Manor, first built in 1928, and then converted into 5 condos in 1960. It took many months to sell. Donald Trump's high-rise condominium project in Hawaii was sold out in 36 hours for a total of $700 million. Only 10 years ago, a lot of businesses were only about bricks and mortar, like a flower shop. Today, that business is more like Jim McCann's 1-800-Flowers.com, with multiple stores, a giant online site, direct ordering through the 800 number, global instead of local. Technologies let startup entrepreneurs instantly enjoy global reach. Speed limits are made to be broken.
The first trigger for the phenomenon is really programming your own thinking about fast instead of slow. For years, I was stuck at about $200,000 a year, but with changed thinking about what can be done in 12 months, I launched a second business. In 36 months, I took it to millions of dollars and sold it for 7 figures. Another business I started went to $1 million in its first 12 months.
We're taught and conditioned to think sequentially, doing things slowly, step by step, 1, 2, 3. Kindergarten, elementary school, junior high school, college, career, and income, then start saving, and later start investing.
But Dan Kennedy shows how to break free from that and do many things simultaneously, which enables us to do more in 12 months than we did in the previous 12 years. We went from running one small business to starting, growing, and profiting from 5 different businesses in just 12 months.
We're taught that starting or growing a business has to be slow, require monstrous amounts of hard work and struggle, even deferring income for the first few years. But that's a speed limit made to be broken. Following one of Dan Kennedy's business models, I started an internet business while teaching full-time, made a profit in my first month, made $100,000 in my first 12 months, and now I'm making over $100,000 every month.
What John Jacob Astor did was unique, amazing, and unheard of at the time. Today I teach ordinary people from all walks of life to do it routinely. Creating $1 million or more in real estate wealth in just 12 months is child's play with what we know today. There's no longer a good reason to think about becoming a millionaire over decades. You can do it in just 12 months, starting now.
In the professional field I work in, a typical business owner might make from $100,000 to $300,000 for a full year's work. I teach them how to make $100,000 in a weekend.
The idea of getting rich quick has always been viewed suspiciously. And people are even warned against the idea. Even I was. But this belief in the slow and difficult is as outdated as the Wright brothers' first plane or how the Egyptians built their pyramids. Today, you can launch a business overnight on the internet. I started my first internet business knowing almost nothing about computers just a few years ago and barely made $30,000 that year. And it's grown ever since. But then I discovered the phenomenon. In the past 12 months, I've launched 7 different products and businesses online, one right after the other. And over the past year, I tripled my income to over $1 million a year. There is no speed limit on wealth anymore, if you know how to trigger the phenomenon.
I'm only 52 years old. In my early years in business, we had 2 prime means of getting our marketing messages to customers: mail and phone. Putting together a direct mail campaign and getting it out to, say, 25,000 to 100,000 people took weeks and tens of thousands of dollars.
Today at Glazer Kennedy Insider Circle, we communicate with more than 100,000 customers at least twice a week by email at zero cost. We have teleseminars, webinars, fax, and voice broadcast technology. A business that took 12 years to build can now be built in 12 months. A marketing campaign that took 12 weeks to execute can now be done in 12 minutes.
Hi, I'm Jim Palmer. I've learned what it takes to win in sports. I know what it takes to win in business. The people you'll meet here also know what it takes to win in business, win financially, and win in the game of life. We share a fascination with speed. Today, with multiple careers as a broadcaster and entrepreneur, I'm always seeking ways to accomplish more and to get to my goals faster. In my sport, baseball, pitching speed is all important. It took about 50 years for a pitcher to break the 100-mile-per-hour barrier. Today, most pitchers throw at 90 miles per hour or even faster. In this game and in business and wealth creation, speed limits are made to be broken. In this film, we'll take an eye-opening, mind-expanding look at just that, breaking speed limits in your life. We'll examine the phenomenon, a collection of strategies and secrets enabling tens of thousands of its users to accomplish their biggest goals, to multiply their incomes, to create hugely successful businesses in just 12 months. And in just a few minutes, you'll begin to meet and get to know almost 24 fascinating people living in the phenomenon. Prime examples of today's speed. Entrepreneurs who are getting rich and achieving a whole host of other goals at amazing speeds. One more thing before we get started. I want you to meet my co-host, Christy Frank.
Competing on Donald Trump's The Apprentice taught me a lot about speed. We were under pressure to do business projects most people would spend weeks or months on in a matter of hours. I'll be going into the field introducing you to several entrepreneurs living the speed of the phenomenon. Certainly one of their breakthroughs has to do with changing their own belief systems about speed, but there's more to the phenomenon than that.
In 1917, one of America's first billionaires, Andrew Carnegie, sent a young writer named Napoleon Hill on a 20-year mission, interviewing hundreds of the era's greatest entrepreneurs and investors to identify common success factors. The result, in 1937, was the book Think and Grow Rich, still a bestseller today. It's a unique investigation on how people we studied in history created their empires, success, and wealth. We often call Dan Kennedy the modern Napoleon Hill because of his similar approach which led to the phenomena. I doubt there's anyone other than Dan Kennedy who has worked hand in hand, up close and personal as a business advisor, strategist, and coach with as many first-generation, self-made millionaires, multimillionaires, and million-dollar-a-year income entrepreneurs. For nearly 30 years, Dan has been intensely involved in the businesses and lives of hundreds of such individuals and directly influenced hundreds of thousands more. People who've started their diverse businesses from scratch and grown them quickly, keyword, quickly, to 5 million, 10 million, 50 million, even billion-dollar-a-year companies. His research has not been limited to interviews and observations, such as Hill's was, but actually in the trenches work. Out of that unmatched experience, Dan identified the strategies and behaviors that all these entrepreneurs share and use to trigger the phenomena.
I was fortunate when I was still in my teens to hear the author Earl Nightingale on a recording say that there was at least one time in every entrepreneur's life when the planets would align and you would attract more opportunity, more cooperation, more resources, accomplish more, and acquire more wealth in just 12 months than in the previous 12 years. Well, I was encouraged by that, but I didn't hear him explain how to make it happen, sooner, not later, or on demand. Well, it is true. Every entrepreneur with longevity has this in just 12 months experience. For most, it occurs organically, and when it's over, they still don't know how to repeat it. I have painstakingly worked to discover the secrets to making it happen for yourself at will and repeatedly.
There are real secrets to applying the phenomenon in your business and in your life. Be alert for them as we now meet and hear from 5 different entrepreneurs living the phenomenon. As a result, you can change your thinking about what you can accomplish in the next 12 months. We'll meet many entrepreneurs living the phenomenon. We begin with Ron LeGrand. You may have seen Ron on TV with his own programs about real estate investing or at huge public seminars with Donald Trump and Robert Kiyosaki, author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. In 1982, Ron was a flat-broke car mechanic in a dead-end job. He remembers having to tell his wife they couldn't afford to get the washing machine repaired. He actually had to borrow the money just to go to his first real estate seminar. Today, he helps thousands become successful investors at the speed of light. Christy Frank went to his home base in Florida to investigate his phenomenon story.
I'm here at Ron LeGrand's incredible house here in Jacksonville, Florida, where he and his wife Beverly live. Let's go inside. His phenomenon story is incredible.
Ron, you're a living legend in the world of real estate investing and teaching others how to do it. Even appearing about 12 times a year in seminars with a man who was almost my boss, Donald Trump. Over 3,000 people a year attend your training programs.
Well, obviously, one of the things a person needs to experience the phenomenon is a sound means of making a great deal of money at a fast speed. Real estate removes the normal speed limits of dollars per hour through leverage. Anybody can start and use my methods regardless of cash, credit, or other responsibilities. It's also a great second activity for people successful in other careers or businesses, a way to build wealth. You can even build wealth quickly in your IRA, tax-free, by using it as the vehicle to buy and control real estate.
Wow, you can even get rich tax-free?
Yes, you can, Christy.
Ron, what specifically do you tell others about the phenomenon?
Well, what I tell people about the phenomenon, Christy, and I talk about it a lot, is that you can't let the past control your future. You trigger the phenomenon by not waiting until you're qualified or ready or have all the resources you need. You just start. I've bought and sold more than 1,600 houses and over $300 million in commercial properties as an investor. And I started with only one when I was broke and dumb. I've helped thousands of people become millionaires, and they all had to start.
Interesting.
You bet.
Now, what's happened most recently for you?
Well, I've been successful now for many years, but still in just the past 12 months, I've accomplished more than the previous 12 years. As an investor, I've gone from doing deals with single-family homes to golf courses, shopping centers, multi-million-dollar projects, real estate developments, and I've increased my own net worth in 12 months more than any multi-year period up to now in my life. I've even bought my dream fishing lodge, Salmon Falls in Alaska, and my own Gulfstream jet I used to get to all my development projects and speaking engagements fast. I'm living the phenomenon, and I know anybody can. But you have to understand, your past doesn't control your future.
Most people who decide to go into business on their own don't succeed, at least not out of the gate. I've been on Oriole teams that have struggled and struggled seemingly endlessly that finally broke through and started winning. What makes that happen? Ed O'Keefe, an improbable consultant to the dental profession, has an idea.
I grew up in a blue-collar family, 12 to 13 kids. Growing up, money was tight. I can recall conversations just like the one Ron LeGrand mentioned about feeling dead broke. By age 27, I was starting my third business and still struggling just to get by. I was basically dead broke. I know you meet a lot of people here who had major phenomenon experiences early. I'm not one of them. I kicked around a while before starting to put the pieces together. One of them was really effective marketing. Discovering Dan Kennedy's style of marketing for me, like what it must have been, just like what the caveman was discovering fire. It changed everything. And today it lets me do things for my clients in dentistry, like creating $100,000 days in their dental offices. Now that's speed. I also discovered the importance of seeking out and finding credible, experienced mentors and coaches. What it did for me is in 2003, in just 12 months, my business went from floundering near zero to over 300,000. You'll hear bigger leaps from others talking about the phenomenon, but for me, at that time, it was huge. In 2006, it was 10 times what it was in 2003, over 3 million. For 2007, in just 12 months, we're on track to double to do over 6 million. One of the most interesting things is that my main business is providing advertising and marketing, websites and business coaching to dentists. But I'm not a dentist. See, the point is, most people let things hold them back that aren't important, that are completely irrelevant. One of the things that turns on the phenomenon is a decision to forget about your past. Ignore your struggles to this point. Ignore whatever you think you lack and focus on using what you've got. I now work with over 3,200 dentists worldwide. The fact they're dentists doesn't matter. It's a business like any other business, and the exact same success principles apply. I'll regularly help them increase their incomes by 50 to 500% in the first 90 to 120 days they're with me. We do that by getting them focused on opportunity, speed, and action, not on excuses or obstacles.
In America, we love rooting for the underdog. We love comeback kids. Sports is full of those stories, but so is entrepreneurial life. One of the most fascinating comeback entrepreneurs Christy and I met during the filming of this video is Stephen Snyder, a man who started his experience with the phenomenon in bankruptcy.
I'm here at the beautiful Florida oceanfront home of Stephen Snyder, one of his 5 homes, including his main residence, a ranch in Wyoming. You may have seen Stephen on CNN or CBS MarketWatch, or read about him in Newsweek as an expert on credit scores. He's the author of Improve Your Credit Scores, Improve Your Lifestyle. But just a few years ago, he was walking out of bankruptcy court. Stephen, your phenomenon story begins there, doesn't it?
You know, Christy, the worst thing that ever happened to me was the best thing that ever happened to me, filing bankruptcy. Like everyone else who actually files bankruptcy, I found I was treated like a non-person. Couldn't even get a home, a car, or even insurance. So I took on the credit system like no one else ever has. And in just 12 months after bankruptcy, I had good credit scores of over 700, closed on a new home at a good interest rate with very little down, and a new car and financing for my new business. This led to my interest in helping other recently bankrupt people, which led to my best-selling book, Credit After Bankruptcy, and a nationwide seminar.
So, Stephen, tell us how that seminar business has grown.
Well, my first phenomenon experience was those 12 months after bankruptcy, and that, I think, was through sheer force of will and determination. But shortly after that, I discovered the kind of marketing that Dan Kennedy and Bill Glazer teach. And shortly after that, I actually got to work with Dan. Now, it took about a year to get to 120 seminars reaching 500,000 people. But then, in one 12-month jump, we went to 375 seminars a year, reaching 3 times as many people. That business again is doubling in just 12 months, now thanks to internet seminars. Now, along the way, I actually became a very active real estate investor where my knowledge of the credit system has been a huge advantage. Just 11 months, I went from bankrupt to millionaire and beyond.
What do you tell others about the phenomenon?
That it's real, Christy. You can create a more successful and wealthy lifestyle in 12 months than the previous 12 years, even if you're starting from a negative position. Now, I've told over 1.5 million people that failure is not permanent. Your past does not equal your future.
Thank you, Stephen, for inviting me into your lovely home.
Do you feel overworked, working too hard and too many hours for your success? As Stephen Snyder's story illustrates, if necessity is the mother of invention, how often is adversity the father of inspiration? Brian Sachs was a successful mortgage broker, earning a 6-figure income, but being eaten alive by pressure and stress from fierce competition, working 24/7, it seemed like 365 days a year, rarely taking a vacation, regretting neglecting his family, when all this adversity launched his phenomenon experience and led him to a much better lifestyle.
After creating a 6-figure income in the mortgage business the hard way, I was gradually, successfully reinventing it with different marketing and business control strategies I obtained from Dan Kennedy and Bill Glazer. My income was increasing, and I was finally able to spend less time on the job and more time with my family. But the key word was gradually, meaning not quickly enough. The day I learned that my youngest son was dyslexic and would need to go to a school with a $26,000 yearly tuition moved me from thinking slow to thinking fast. I not only accelerated my improvements in the marketing and operation of my mortgage business, I followed one of Dan and Bill's blueprints to put all of my successful marketing into a program for other loan officers. In just 12 months, I had a second business launched, and in just 36 months, it's grown into a multi-million-dollar information marketing, coaching, and software company with over 100,000 subscribers. Last year, I sold it for 7 figures. Along the way, I acquired the skills I used to create 3 other businesses, one of which has hit $1 million in revenue in its first 12 months and is now producing multiple millions of revenue after just 24 months. These are businesses that do not require my attention every waking moment, so I'm able to be at all of my children's school and sports events and take a number of family vacations each year, with no cell phone and no pager. My son is happy at his new school, and the tuition that once worried me is obviously not an issue. My life and my family's life certainly did change dramatically in just 12 months. About the phenomenon, I will point to one of the authors that Dan Kennedy quotes, W. Clement Stone, who coined the phrase, inspiration to action. Many people are frustrated in businesses or careers even while doing well, but they are not sufficiently motivated to change. One way or another, you have to find inspiration to action. Once you do, you can accomplish more in 12 months than in your previous 12 years.
How many people fail to get what they want out of life? Simply because they fail to act on their ideas. Yannick Silver is very well known in the world of internet marketing. As a millionaire boy wonder hitting that market 31 years of age, and for his now famous spy-themed underground internet seminars. But imagine, if he had just rolled over and gone back to sleep.
My phenomenon story has a pretty simple punchline. I got out of bed. Since the age of 14, I worked for my father in his medical equipment supply business, and it was there I started studying and applying Dan Kennedy's brilliant marketing methods. I was a serious student of marketing and became very good at using sales letters in place of telephone prospecting or cold calling. That's so common in that industry. I was 26 years old, married, wondering what I might do on my own, when one night, literally, I woke up 3:12 in the morning, poked my wife missing my finger. I said, "Miss, wake up, I got the idea." Of course, she told me to go back to sleep. But I got up, registered a domain name for that business I'd thought about. It was a website stocked with ready-to-use templates for sales letters that people could take and use in their own business. I remember the very first email coming in telling me I had $29.95 deposit in my account. So excited. That first month, sales topped $1,800. Second month, it doubled to $3,600. By that fourth month, I was bringing in $9,000 a month for my little $29.95 product, all from a table in the corner of my living room in a little one-bedroom apartment. From there, I added lots of other online products and quickly started showing other people how to create their own online automated businesses just like I had. In the first 12 months, I made nearly $300,000 net. Today, I live what I call the ultimate internet lifestyle. Just bought $1 million plus home. I drive my dream car, which is a new Aston Martin, take tons of trips everywhere, and we run our business from anywhere with just our laptops. My new book, Moonlighting on the Internet, tells my story and many of my students' stories and explains how anybody can do what I've done. When you think about it, my phenomenon was possible because of preparation, because of my serious study of the critical component in all of businesses, and that's effective marketing. And the much bigger but still completely automated business I run today is fueled by my continuing study and acquiring that same kind of information. In fact, I'm part of Dan's top-tier elite mastermind group for information marketers, just as an example. But my phenomenon was triggered by one simple thing that few people do, and that's acting on my idea.
What can we learn from a former Baywatch lifeguard, now a college planning advisor to families? Well, Yannick Silver experienced the phenomenon by starting a new business. But you don't necessarily have to change careers. Ron Carruthers has a phenomenon story that anybody in any business or sales career can take something away from.
I built a very nice business as a college planning advisor, helping families get grants, scholarships, and financing from colleges of their sons' and daughters' choice. Over the years, I've personally helped over 2,300 young people go to Stanford, Harvard, Yale, and over 100 other universities, in many cases when they thought they couldn't afford to do so, or when they thought they had too much family income to qualify for any aid. And I was making a very good income providing that service. My phenomenon experience started with Dan Kennedy making provocative observations about my business. First, that I was underestimating my value and the fees clients will cheerfully pay for my expertise. And second, that I had other opportunities in my business I hadn't seen. So for 13 years, I plodded along earning a nice living. But in those next 12 months, my income increased over 800%. In just 12 months, I went from having only a local business to a national business, to creating a new range of special services for particularly affluent families, and publishing and providing do-it-yourself resources and programs for families who wanted an option other than hiring my firm, and creating a national network of advisors, including financial planners, CPAs, and mortgage professionals who I've trained, certified, and put into my business, all in just 12 months. Oh, and I still spend a lot of time at the beach with my family and taking great vacations all over the world. What I would say about triggering the phenomenon is that it doesn't matter how long you've been doing whatever you're doing, you really can change everything in just 12 months. Most businesses contain hidden, overlooked opportunities, And Dan Kennedy's approach to uncovering those opportunities and his unusual marketing strategies can transform just about anybody from a business owner to an entrepreneur.
Ron alluded to something important, the distinction between business owner and entrepreneur. Let's pursue that idea further with our next phenomenon story. Bill Glazer took over his family business, 2 menswear stores, in 1991. Now, while the business was very successful and a city fixture for about 50 years, it had hit a plateau, and there didn't seem to be any room for growth until a fateful day in 1997.
I first heard Dan Kennedy speak at a huge seminar in Philadelphia. Dan was on with President Bush, Mrs. Fields, the founder of Mrs. Fields Cookies, Zig Ziglar, and he followed General Colin Powell. He talked about a different type of marketing than I was used to in retail. I bought his manuals and devoured them on the way home on the train. And I instantly began changing the way we advertised and marketed the stores. Then in just 12 months, we experienced a huge 31% increase in our retail business when we would have normally had a 2% to 7% yearly increase. In 1997, I saw that Dan was coming to speak at another big event in Baltimore. I invited him to lunch and showed him the unusual advertising I was doing. He urged me to publish and sell my advertising and marketing to other retail store owners. In just 12 months, that became a $1 million a year business, and as a spare time side business with 1 employee, continues to produce over $1 million a year. That led me to really dig into what we call the information marketing business, which encompasses publishing, consulting, coaching, and seminars. Today, as president of Glazer Kennedy Insider Circle, I oversee publishing 4 newsletters, a catalog and web store with over 33 different how-to products and over 130,000 customers, seminars, a nationwide organization of consultants with 94 local chapters where like-minded business owners meet to study this kind of marketing. In the past 12 months, by the way, we've doubled this business and expect to double it again in the next 12. I've now experienced the phenomenon 3 times. In the transformation of my retail business, the creation of my first information business, and in the huge, fast growth in this current business. I've also coached and helped hundreds of business owners experience the phenomenon. And here's what I can tell you about it. You need a powerful advertising and marketing system that defies your industry norms, allows you to sell successfully at premium prices, and brings you more high-value customers than you can handle day in and day out. It is possible to put together such a marketing system for any business. Most business owners or people starting new businesses think success is most closely linked to best products or services, or unique products, or quality services, or worst of all, hard work. They do not understand that the critical element is truly understanding direct marketing and being able to assemble a true marketing system. The importance of understanding direct marketing rather than traditional marketing cannot be overstated, whether you're in a business or planning to start one.
Lloyd Irvin grew up on the mean streets in a tough inner-city neighborhood. He became passionately interested in martial arts. He acquired strong self-discipline and motivation. In 1996, he opened his own martial arts school and made a very impressive success out of it, growing to involve 500 students and garnering national recognition. It took 6 years, but that was nothing compared to what he's done with the phenomenon.
Hi, I'm at the magnificent 10,000 square foot Lloyd Irvin's Mixed Martial Arts Academy. Lloyd, tell us about your phenomenon experience.
Well, I was first introduced to the kind of marketing that Bill Glazier was speaking about in 2002. I used it to take my school from just $3,600 a month to over $1 million a year in just 18 months. And the dramatic change was well underway in the first 12 months. Anybody with any type of local brick and mortar business, school, store, practice, service can certainly do what I did and at least double their income in just 12 months. But I also began successfully publishing and marketing my own products, books, manuals, courses, and created multiple internet businesses. And in just 12 months, took those businesses from zero to millions of dollars. In the first 12 months, I even had one new product launched that produced over $180,000 in just one day and over $1 million in the first month. I also started a business coaching program in just 12 months, went from startup to over $100,000 a month. Oh, my wife has a phenomenon story also.
Well, great. Let's go meet her.
Let's go.
So, Vicki, Lloyd told me he's not the only one with a phenomenon experience.
Actually, that's right. I had a career as a human resources director and started investing in real estate on the side, and I got very good at it. At one of our mastermind meetings, Bill Glazier said, why not teach what you're doing to others? And with Lloyd's encouragement, I actually quit my job. And in just 12 months, we've created a multi-million-dollar business. And we're producing incredibly successful students with their own phenomenon experiences as investors.
Lloyd, you've had one phenomenon experience after another. So what can you share with others about making it happen?
Well, the phenomenon can occur in any business and let you leap instantly from one business to many, just as we have. You trigger the phenomenon by being open to new opportunities and taking bold action.
You have to have confidence in yourself, and it helps to know how the phenomenon is triggered so you can see yourself following a proven plan, and to have mentors and coaches who actually encourage you.
I've made a business into a success slowly, and I know how to do that. I've also had this incredible experience with accomplishing more than 12 months than the previous 12 years. And I like that a whole lot better. And I know how to do that again, too.
Thank you, Lloyd. Vicki.
You're welcome.
When Lloyd says you can start the phenomenon in any business, do you believe him? Is there a more ordinary business than auto repair? Ron Ipak has what he calls a modest phenomenon story to tell. But how modest is it when you become the #1 business advisor to an entire industry?
I don't have a great rags to riches story, certainly not one as dramatic as many of the others here. I did once go from making an embarrassing $13,000 a year to $13,000 a month in just 12 months. I struggled in various businesses, including my last one, mobile windshield repair, when a series of events brought me to a big success seminar in Cincinnati where I first heard Dan Kennedy. In those next 12 months, my business was transformed by Kennedy-style marketing. I began sharing what I discovered with others in the windshield repair business. Then I expanded into the auto repair industry, and there are currently over 3,200 shop owners using my advertising and marketing programs. My business coaching program in that industry provides me with $1 million a year income with, quite frankly, not a lot of work on my part. In fact, I launched it and did $720,000 of business in just one day, and I maintain it at most working 15 hours a month. I've had several in just 12 months leaps in income along the way that have given my family a huge home, put my kids in the best schools, and made us financially secure and independent with good investments. But I've also made leaps in my self-awareness, and I often sacrifice opportunities to make more money in favor of more time with my family. I call myself a lazy entrepreneur, and the point I'd like to make about the phenomenon is that it isn't just about the money. In fact, Dan often says it's not just about the money you make, but how you make it. While I do work with shop owners with big ambitions and coach some who have gone from small businesses to multi-million-dollar, multi-location businesses at blinding speed, Most of the owners I work with have more modest aspirations. They like what they do. They like being their own boss, and for them, the phenomenon is all about a combination of improving their incomes and also improving their business and personal lives. Having time with their families, having time for fishing, hunting, boating, or golf, going from working to pay bills to working for their ideal lifestyle. I have a lot in common with them. I know what it's like to struggle, and I know what it's like not to struggle. That, for me, is what the phenomenon is all about, erasing the struggle. And that can happen for the owner of any kind of business, small or large, local or national. I now teach what I call the lazy man's way to a successful life, and many business owners applying my strategies have gone from 80-hour work weeks to working only a few hours at their businesses each week while making more money than ever.
Our consumption of caffeine is soaring. It's not just from coffee anymore. There's soft drinks with added caffeine, bottled water with the equivalent of 4 cups of coffee added, even caffeine-infused lip balm and soap. Doctors say we're trying to substitute caffeine for sleep. Why? The incredible demands on our time, including that ever-increasing commute to and from our workplaces. Well, what if you could replace a 2-hour daily commute with a 2-minute commute?
The day I got fired was one of the best days of my life. At the time, I was earning about $700 a month in my spare time on a little site called eBay. Who knew? I wasn't doing anything you'd call rocket science. In fact, I was buying items at my local dollar store and reselling them for as much as 30 times their cost, simply by presenting them in an interesting way. I hadn't thought of it as a big opportunity until getting fired made me look at it differently. Rather than trying to find another job, I decided to immerse myself in eBay. I came across Dan Kennedy's information, and that really opened my eyes to different and better ways to use eBay. And still today, 7 years later, most eBay sellers don't know the real secret to making big money there. Anyway, applying Dan's strategies, I achieved power seller status in just 90 days, and within just 12 months, I was earning more per month than I'd been paid all year at my job, with my business almost completely on autopilot, what I call set it and forget it. Oh, and I had a 2-minute commute rather than a 2-hour one. I've also authored a best-selling book about my discoveries called eBay Exposed, and I developed a training and coaching business to help other eBay sellers. For me, the phenomenon is really about freedom and not having to trade time for money. What my experience reveals about the phenomenon is that you don't need a revolutionary new idea, and you don't need a lot of capital. You can find an opportunity and a way to start your phenomenon experience wherever you are right now.
If the phenomenon can occur in any business, as Ron Lloyd and Andrew say, is it so formulaic that it can transform a profession too? Ben Altadonna not only lives the phenomenon personally, but has taken it into his profession almost as a standard recipe for thousands of businesses.
I've followed Dan Kennedy for 10 years and worked with him personally for 5 years, and I've become a serial phenomenoner just like Dan is. I first revolutionized my own chiropractic practice with the kind of direct marketing strategies that Bill Glazer talked about earlier. But what's more interesting than what I did in my practice is what I've created throughout my profession. I've virtually changed its face. Over 6,000 doctors nationwide have adopted my advertising, marketing, patient education, and community outreach strategies. and have their versions of my patient newsletter sent to more than 160,000 homes every month. It's really quite common for me to create the in just 12 months phenomenon in a doctor's practice. That is, first, to get him to decide what he wants to be different. That may be a modest income increase for a small town practice. It may be more ambitious. It may be about working less or putting a system in place that provides a steady stream of new patients. Then second, to have him set in motion proven marketing systems appropriate to his goals. I guess that sounds simplistic, but there it is. In my own life, as I said, I originally transformed my practice in just 12 months. Then I launched my consulting, training, and seminar business for chiropractors and went from 0 to more than 500 doctors as my members in just the first 12 months. Fairly recently, I transformed myself from an entrepreneur to a real estate investor, going from owning just our home to more than 20 investment properties in 4 different states. Also, with an associate, I've established a training business, teaching real estate investing to doctors, and in just 12 months, graduated more than 300 doctors and generated over $1.3 million in fees. My business is lean, run by my wife, Sandy, me, and one key person, Larry. We live a great life in Northern California, and I have no time clock. I now think in 12-month terms. What are we going to add to the business and make into a huge success in the next 12 months? How am I going to accomplish even more in the next 12 months than in the last 12 months? To me, the phenomenon is as much about the way you think about your own possibilities as anything else. See, most business owners think about their business as if standing outside looking in, seen only as what it is and strictly limiting its possibilities. I do the opposite and help thousands of doctors do the same. You can't underestimate the importance of having highly effective marketing, which most business owners do not have but can readily get. But beyond that, and bigger than that, is the way you think.
Ben Altadonna talked about the significance of the way you think about your possibilities. Scott Tucker has definitely expanded his thinking about his possibilities and had one phenomenon experience after another as a result.
Scott, the phenomenon is all about speed, and you've really been moving fast these last few years. Let's start by talking about your first business and your first phenomenon experience.
Well, I came out of the Navy in 1996 at age 23. I got a job in 98 as a mortgage loan officer, and I went out on my own a couple years later. In just 12 months, I went from clueless and broke to earning over $40,000 in an average month. That was mostly thanks to discovering Dan Kennedy-style marketing. In the next 12 months, I really perfected my act. I used my dog Boomer and the Chicago celebrity Refrigerator Perry from the '85 World Champion Chicago Bears. I used client testimonials in my marketing, developed unique direct mail campaigns. And with just one part-time staff person and working part-time myself, I made $600,000. I kept improving on that business, but unless I wanted to hire and grow staff, which I didn't, or work a lot more, which I didn't, I hit the ceiling my third year at $731,000 in income. Then at Dan Kennedy's urging, I decided to clone myself and my system and provide it with my coaching to one mortgage broker or loan officer in each area nationwide. In just 12 months, I went from startup to 97 brokers and loan officers in my program. But income from that business is topping $1.7 million a year. I'm helping them have their own phenomenon experiences too now, and I have well over 100 members now, and the income is well over $2 million a year.
Wow. I assume there's a next?
There's always a next. Now that I have the marketing skill set and the understanding of the phenomenon, I'm involved in launching 2 additional businesses. One is somewhat similar to my coaching business, but in a different field, and I intend to take it to $1 million the very first year. The other is a much bigger, more complicated business with a national chain of franchise brick-and-mortar businesses marketing to affluent customers with linked direct marketing and online businesses, and I'm aiming that at $0 to $10 million in 12 months. Then tripling it in the next 12 months. With that business, I'm working with a team of entrepreneurs. And there are opportunities for people to get involved as master area and unit franchise owners. I intend to break all speed records in this industry.
So, Scott, I hear you have some really interesting vehicles.
Yeah, I like cars and motorcycles quite a bit. So.
You have a Harley?
Yeah.
I love Harleys.
Well, you want to take a ride?
Yes, let's go. So, what would you tell us about having these kind of phenomenon experiences?
Well, I guess it's obvious there are a lot of contributing factors that have to be understood and then pulled together all at the very same time. I think it's important to understand that those factors apply to any business anywhere. That's why I can now move from one business to another with total confidence. Who you associate with, study, and model is important. You need mentors, advisors, coaches, and examples. I've been fortunate enough to be embraced in Dan Kennedy's world. I'm providing that very same kind of support now to my member loan officers and mortgage brokers in my program. But the biggest thing is how you view yourself. I went into the mortgage business thinking of myself as a salesman, then as a business owner, then I made a big leap from owner of a mortgage business to marketer of a mortgage business. And now I see myself as providing my marketing to my member loan officers and mortgage brokers, and as an entrepreneur who possesses universally applicable skills, strategies, and so on to quickly start or develop and dramatically improve any business.
One thing I'm curious about, and I'm sure others will be curious, is how you can keep control and stay organized moving forward on so many fronts.
Sure, well, that's one of the big triggers of the phenomenon. To quote Dan, success comes out of a messy kitchen. You have to be willing to not have to wait to have all your ducks in a row, have all your questions answered, even to create chaos. Every success I've ever had and that I'm having now, and I start before I'm even ready.
Thanks so much for everything, Scott.
You're welcome.
Scott talked about being willing to start without having all your ducks in a row. This brings us to the topic of timing. If you're waiting to act on your ideas and goals till the time is better, Jim Gillespie has a story for you.
In 1994, as a commercial real estate broker, I was wrestling with the worst real estate market in California since the Great Depression. My wife and I separated and began divorce. My father had a heart attack, a stroke, and died after 6 very difficult weeks in the hospital. My father, incidentally, volunteered for the Royal Air Force in World War II, flew 101 combat missions, and was one of the Battle of Britain pilots referred to by Winston Churchill in his famous quote, "Never in the field of human conflict was so much owed by so many to so few." I greatly admired my father, and he was my best friend, and his passing was a great loss to me. My mother and sister both suffered from degenerative diseases, and I became responsible for their personal and financial well-being. Some days, just getting out of bed and putting one foot in front of the other was a big accomplishment. The pain of all the loss, the anxiety over my new responsibility,